Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to provide an update on the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we actually haven't provided an update on the bull market support band, or when we're in a bear market, the bear market resistance band, in quite some time, and mainly mainly because the reason is it becomes somewhat irrelevant when we're no longer in the vicinity of it, right? Like, what's the point of talking about it? But we are starting to approach it, and so I wanted to go over where it is today and give you an outlook on, or at least give you some areas to look for if this relief rally continues. Okay, so as of today, the 20-week SMA is actually at around 31K, 31.2K, and then the 21-week EMA is at 29.5. So more or less, you could argue that the bull market support band, or bear market resistance band, if you prefer, ranges from around 29 to 31K. Now it is moving down relatively quickly, and clearly we're in the middle of some type of relief rally. It's always hard to know exactly how high these things will go. But if it were to continue this relief, then the line in the sand that we would want to try to get back above is, in fact, that bull market support band. But again, it is coming down relatively quickly. Suppose we were to make it up there within a few weeks, it might correspond to somewhere between, say, 27 to 30K, right? Remember, it's two separate moving averages. They're not exactly the same thing, but it could correspond easily to around 27 to 30K in 2 or 3 weeks if this rally were to continue. Now, remember, when we're in these bear markets, Bitcoin has a habit of getting rejected by the bull market support band. It's been rejected a number of times. As I've said many, many times, crypto investors know what rejection feels like because we've been rejected by it over here. We were rejected by it here. Remember, if you just get 1 week close above it and you don't really see a strong follow through, you can occasionally see these sort of fake outs. And we actually had those in 2018 as well, where we would sometimes get back above it, but it was always relatively short lived. And it wasn't until much later we actually had the courage to get back above it. Unfortunately, we didn't hold it as support on that attempt, but it is something that we were able to sort of enjoy this 2019 rally, which a lot of people were frankly not expecting, including myself. Okay, so right now Bitcoin has sort of had a relief rally off of this low of 17.5. And we are moving up relatively quickly back up to the bull market support band, or again, bear market resistance band. So I would say that's an important line in the sand to keep your eyes on. So the upper $20,000 range up to around 30K, I think is a very important area to watch. Now, one of the interesting things, and I actually showed this in a video maybe a couple videos ago, is overlaying this with the regression bands. All right. Now, I will remind you, and I make no apologies for it, we will be refitting the lower regression band sometime in the next few months. What I said before is that normally, after we've had several months of the bear market, we want to refit it just so we have it the best fit possible going into the next market cycle, right? So we will probably refit this one at the end of the year. But one thing to note is that it always took Bitcoin until after it was in the regression band before it could really sustainably get above the bull market support band. So that's what happened in 2012. That's what happened in, over here in 2015. It also happened in 2019 as well. And if you continue on, you can at least see the bull market support band has come back down into the lower regression band. So I would argue, back over here, if you guys remember, many months ago, back in March, we were talking about how these lower lows these higher lows ultimately will not hold, right? And we will eventually see some type of a breakdown. So let me pull that back up. So I don't know if you guys remember this, but we were sort of talking about this, and we said, all right, guys, look, we have a low, we have a higher low, we have a higher low, and then we have this high, and then a failure to put in a higher low. And we were looking for some type of a breakdown. So back then, when we were testing the bull market support band, we weren't as optimistic, right? Because we were still well away from the regression band. And furthermore, I just think that going into a very hawkish Fed, it wasn't necessarily the most the most likely scenario to get back above it and sustain it. We have fallen quite a bit, so obviously we have improved odds now. That doesn't necessarily mean it's definitive that we will get back above it and hold it as support. But again, my sort of speculation on this is that even if we don't hold it as support, or even if we don't get back above it, or even if we do get back above it, we still likely have some time, to kill before we actually have a realistic chance of going on a bull market type rally that'll actually take us to new all-time highs. So you can have rallies and whatnot that aren't necessarily going to take you to new all-time highs. So I would be looking more towards that type of a rally at this phase of the cycle, not necessarily a rally that's going to go take you to a new all-time high, if that makes sense. Okay, so right now we're just trying to figure out if we can get back above this level. And we can go back to kind of see what has happened in the past with Bitcoin. In 2015, we actually were in the regression band. We actually came just out of it right here, but we got rejected by it right here. We got back above it, and then we fell below it yet again and kind of put in a double bottom over here. And then in 2019, you can see, or 2018, 2019, you see we came in here. We got back above it, but then ultimately we failed to hold it as support, and we ended up sort of also putting in more or less a double bottom. I mean, not exactly, but it was close to a double bottom, 3,100 and then 3,800, just over a year later or so. So right now we find ourselves in a very similar position where we are sort of going into this, and you can kind of see the bull market support band is sort of coming down to meet us. If we do rally back up, it'll be an important area to watch. But again, I think we have plenty of time to gear up for another rally to new all-time highs. So make sure you're just following your strategy with Bitcoin, whether it's DCAing based on whatever indicator you want to use, or whatever it might be, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people are constantly wondering if 17.5 is the bottom or not. I don't really think it matters. I mean, I think in the long term, buying in this region will likely work out relatively well. Although it's hard to say exactly if we'll eventually take that low out. Sometimes we do take these lows out. It just might take a while, right, for us to actually go put in maybe a lower low or potentially a double bottom. All right. So that is at least one thing to consider. I also wanted to talk about the 200-day because as I've said before, the 200-day in a bear market, it's one of those things that a lot of people forget about because it doesn't really hold that much of importance in a bull market. But as I've said before, right, everyone has a plan until we get rejected by the 200-day. And the 200-day was something that we got rejected by in 2018 quite frequently. We got rejected at it around 10K, and then we got rejected at around 8,500, and then again at around 7,600 or so. And then finally, we got back above it, but it wasn't until Bitcoin had gone all the way down to around 4,500, okay? So Bitcoin, by the time Bitcoin went back to the 200-day moving average or was able to get back above it, Bitcoin had fallen 77%, okay? Now, right now, Bitcoin has been rejected off the 200-day SMA during this bear market one time. And honestly, this bear market, for the last, before this rally that we're in right now, it was fairly brutal. Compared to the last one. I mean, the last one technically went down more percentage-wise, at least at the very end. And of course, this one could go down that far as well. But you can kind of see this one during, after that top phase, we sort of just went sideways with a slightly bearish bias. This one was almost just straight down, right? Almost just straight down. But just to add something on to the bull market support band, if we do get back above it, I would say the next area to watch out for would be that 200-day moving average, which is coming down relatively quickly. Right now, just to give you a number, it's currently sitting at just over $34,000. Okay, I do think a lot of people are leaning somewhat optimistic in the short term because of we don't really have another meeting with the Fed until September. Everyone knows we love September here in the Cryptoverse, right? We don't really have another meeting with the Fed until September where we'll figure out if they're going to raise rates or not. And so I either imagine that people are speculating on either inflation having topped or at least getting somewhat under control. But I would say, if the next 2 months go by and inflation continues to go higher, then I imagine markets would start to get spooked by another Fed meeting. If, on the other hand, inflation really starts to come back down by September, then you still might see a dip going into the September meeting. But if as long as it's 25 basis points or 50 basis points rate hike, then it might not have too detrimental of an effect. Regardless, I just wanted to provide you guys an update on the bull market support band or bear market resistance band if you prefer. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Remember to check out Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com, and I'll see you guys next time.